So what we are going to present you today is a very, very dense presentation, I have to confess, considering...
Yeah, but you have to stay in 20 minutes.
You have to stay in 20 minutes. Barbara is very strict, so we try to do it. So being very direct to the point, I'm going to the background information. Our presentation is starting from this slide. You will see probably a lot of pictures in our presentation. So the fact is that we are considering less favored areas as a very interesting context of research. Given the fact that more than 60% of European population lives outside the city. So this is not a void. This is a very, very dense polycentric area which can really structure our territory, and is very close related to ecosystem service and the regeneration of ecosystem services. So all of these communities are strongly related to daily care and maintenance and the reproduction of these ecosystem services. Second figure is about the role of metropolitan, skipped very quickly, is the role of the metropolitan area. There is a research which is quite famous from 2006 from Philip Oswald that was already mentioned the fact through the concept of shrinking cities that there are two speeds in the territory. So there are central pole of aggregation of trends and potential economic motor of the territory, but there are other territories which can, for instance, conceived in Italy as inner areas, or as you can see here in Germany, which are part of metropolitan region as well, which needs to have again to occupy again a centrality, a central role, considering all of the other facts that we discussed before, and also the reproduction of ecosystem services. So how we can produce a regional branding based on this ecosystem services? How can landscape character assessment be a key element to produce a regional branding? So I present you briefly some of the output of this national priority research program in Germany funded by the MBF, which was called Regio Branding, branding of urban rural region through cultural landscape characteristic. And you can find more of the findings and all of the work plan described in this book, which has been edited by Jörg Schröder and Maddalena Ferretti as well. It's focused particularly on the metropolitan region in Hamburg, so a very, very important core arbor region in Europe. But as you can see, this three focus area, which has been pointed out in the map, represent the focus of our research interests. So there are territories which are characterized mainly by the population, by we can define them as slow territories, probably, but also with a very, very high natural values they can express. This is the methodology that we applied to the research, so it's based both of a quanto-qualitative method of analysis, which has been congregated in two core moments of the research. The first one was about the pattern analysis, based on the idea of defining alternative premises, understanding which were the trends of transformation of the different territories, in terms of a sort of SWOT analysis to understand the threats and the potential, even the hidden potentials to be developed, but also to define which were the main natural landscape anthropic elements that could have been potentially highlighted through different pattern analysis. Second moment of the research was about, stand by, okay, I don't know. Anyway, do you see it?
There's a standby TV.
Okay. in the meantime, I continue. The second block of the research is about the scenario building method. So considering the fact that scenario as for architecture is more a spatial figuration of real transformation in the territory according to the different trends. No, so we tried even to sketch out alternative, even radical or provocative scenario, given the main transformation forces, the driving forces of transformation in the territory itself. Just to give you a brief overview of the qualitative perception, even to give you a sense of the place, we defined three main categories of analysis. They were for connection to water and wind, to agricultural area, to built heritage. All the focus area has been deeply analyzed in specific site-specific condition, has been highlighted here in this azure squares, which were zooms, in which we devoted different urban design studios with our students to explore the trends, to explore the pattern analysis, and to propose even a portrait map. A portrait map means, according to Kevin Lynch analysis, which were these elements through a sort of reductionism critical analysis to select all of those elements that can represent, so to say, the backbone structure of this territory itself. Just to give you a little bit of a glance now of what could be those territory. Steinburg Elbe Marschen, so was let's say like a wetland area, very proximus to the river mouth of Elbe River in the north of Germany, and it's characterized, but as you can see in this different picture, by a very flat condition. Cultural landscape here, it's strongly connected to all the Frisians and Netherlands territory. So is exactly produced the same image of the territory as in the Netherlands. So the polder systems, in which you can see a linear conurbation of the settlement structure, which is strongly characterized each Ufe, which is the plot of land, connected to the backyards of each house. So you can see that's not so many changes from the Prussian cadastre plan to the new settlement structure. Even though new elements such the wind turbines and a lot of infrastructural development are strongly affecting this structure by obliterating some of these patterns. A second area which has been analyzed is very, very peculiar, because this region in Elbe Wendland is characterized by a form of small settlement structure, very, very singular, because they are circular villages. As you can see, the regional distribution of these villages are quite dense in this area, and actually those villages has been candidated by the UNESCO heritage sites. A decision is still ongoing, but what we find out, which is very, very curious, is they are not so much, let's say, internationally present, no, both and they can represent a very interesting tourist destination, considering all of the connection to European Eurovelo track or ecotourism possibilities in the area. The last area we analyze with this project is about the Baltic coast, the German Baltic coast. So basically the Lübeck region and Mecklenburg coastline. which is again a very intense area due to the fact that historically the Hanseatic League produced a very peculiar architecture, which is the brick Gothic architecture, which has been the core of the values we decided to work on it with our students, also in urban waterfront renovation area, as you can see here in Wismar, or even in this very low-rise but high-density model of urbanization in order to avoid urban sprawl condition along the coast. So these are just some of the information, and as you can see, this is exactly a representation of the scenario, the special scenario trends that we defined for these areas. I would like to give the word to Maddalena. I don't know if...
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So I hope you can hear me. Sorry for not being there with you. I apologize for that, but due to other institutional appointments, I couldn't make it. But really, again, thank you for this invitation, which is quite interesting. Because we think, also with this background that Emanuele showed, we think that to face the complexity of these territories, it is necessary to have an interdisciplinarity to be able to tackle with these challenges that these territories are facing in the last decades, and this complexity, which you have seen that we tried to analyze in Germany, is the same that we are experiencing now in this other project, which is a PRIN project, so a project of relevant national interest, which is called Branding for Resilience. Somehow Branding for Resilience follows up the project Regio Branding that we developed together in Germany at the Leibniz University. And this project involves 4 different universities with the Politecnica delle Marche as leading partner, and then the Università degli Studi di Palermo, Trento, and Politecnico di Torino. So 4 different universities, 4 territories, and 31 researchers involved to study how we can use the tourist infrastructure as a tool to enhance the small villages by drawing resilient communities and new open habitats. So if you go to the next one, you can see that the analyzed contexts or the focus areas of the Branding for Resilience project are 4 different Italian inner areas. This involves 57 municipalities, more than 100,000 inhabitants, and the average density is around 30 inhabitants per square kilometers. And as you can see in the pictures to the right, those places, those areas develop all along, let's say, the mountain chain of Italy, from the south to the north to the so 2 are more alpine areas and 2 are more Mediterranean areas, and as you can see, they're quite different and diverse. But of course there are some traits that can be recognized, and especially all of them present marginal and peripheral conditions that we try to analyze in this project, which is now in the last year of research, through the lens of 4 different explorative dimensions. This is a bit our approach to study these areas from the point of view of the infrastructures, landscape, and ecosystems, from the point of view of the built and cultural heritage, settlement dynamics, from the point of view of the economies and values, and from the point of view of the networks and services and the community and governance models. To do so, if you go to the next one, we tried in this first phase of exploration to use qualitative and quantitative tools together. So basically, these different tools are combined into this first year of exploration that we are now wrapping up into a sort of an atlas. And these exploration tools concern, first of all, a process of mapping. So we have studied these territories through maps, through diagrams, through what we called transversal indicators, and we agreed upon the methodology and the data and the single maps to be produced. So we have like a sort of a collection of more than 100 maps to compare the different areas of the different national conditions, so the different inner areas, that the different focus areas of the project. But besides that, we also applied, because the core, let's say, of the group, of the research team are architects, then there are also many other disciplines involved in the 30 researchers that you have seen, but mostly the 4 coordinators are 4 architects. We applied also other tools like research on field, of course, with on-site visits, contacts with administrations, with questionnaires. We applied also a sort of a more perceptive and narrative exploration, for example, through photographic surveys, through a sort of a portrait gallery of all these territories by hiring 4 different professional photographers that have portrayed these different contexts. We have done the stakeholders analysis, interviews, and the storytelling that accompanied all this process. And finally, also for us as architects, design is a tool of exploration, is a tool of research that helps us to investigate the scales of architecture, landscape, and territory, which are all embedded into this. So if you go to the next one, just to have a quick glimpse of just like few examples of what we mean by using these explorative tools in the Appennino Basso Pesarese Anconetano, which is the focus area of the Politecnica. We tried to find out through this mapping the qualities of the place, and these qualities are inherent to, of course, the built heritage. We are close by Urbino, a UNESCO site. We have almost 500 listed buildings, but many of them are, or some of the buildings, around 700, are disused buildings. We have, of course, a certain dynamic in the region, in the focus area. So we have a quite young average age for the administrators, this in terms of community and networks. And at the same time, we have many local products that have different DOP and EIGP labels, let's say. So many food products, basically excellent products. And it's also a very culturally dynamic area where in summer there is a rising population due to the presence of 30%, of more than 30% population due to tourism attraction. So if you go to the next one, here I just wanted to point out also another important tool for us. This is a master thesis, one of the many that we have that I supervised in this area. And in this specific built heritage, which is a productive building, a former pasta factory in Sassoferrato, we tried with this with the students to explore the possibilities of architectural design into envisaging a new way of using this capital, this territorial capital. And here, for example, this pasta factory along the Sentino River has been transformed into a food hub, an innovative place place to work on this topic of local excellence, of local products, but in a more innovative way, because of course the idea is to attract tourism, but to induce, to provoke in the future more structural transformations in the territory, and so a major, higher resilience of the communities. In the last year, in the second year of research, we have developed or we have traveled all along the nation, all along the focus areas in Italy, and we have done these co-design workshops. The first one in Sicily, the second one in the Marche region, then in Trentino, and then in Piedmont. So we really went through this journey, and we proposed, if you go to the next one, in a process that was based on a sort of a 4 days model that it's our approach that consisted in site exploration and research, a dialogue with local actors, so with round tables, with meetings with communities. And we, for example, in Sassoferrato, like you see here, we have inhabited the so-called Asilo d'Appennino, which is a beautiful palazzo in the center of this small town, which has been refurbished as a cultural place for artists and researchers within the national strategy of inner areas, so with the funding of the SNAI. And we produced these design concepts and visions for the city. So in the last image, it's just to sum up a bit what we have done. For example, in Sassoferrato, we imagined to work on this Centinum Creative Park, so this park along the river, by putting together different assets of the territory, different qualities and values, starting from the recycle of core buildings like this former pasta factory and a former factory of concrete, and then reflecting on the possibility of sustainable mobilities by retrieving a former railway along, let's say, a former railway that is now also being recycled by the region, and then by implementing a sort of a river park to get back on the traces and experiences and values of this place, and dig again or drown again into the culture of this small town. And this was just an example. Maybe to conclude, I would like to also leave the word to Emanuele, and I hope that even though we are working on different levels, let's say, of investigation, that I think that there are a lot of synergies, and these two research projects show the possibility to bring together different tools, qualitative and quantitative tools, because due to the complexity of these territories, we think it's necessary to work at different levels. So I don't know, Emanuele, if you want to maybe say a last word.
I don't know if you hear me. Yes. Okay. No, I think it's perfect, Madda. As I totally agree what you said. So I don't have much more to add. Also, not to take more time to the audience if we want to open up a little bit of debate.
Thanks
a lot.
So thank you.